Welcome to today's Corruption Scorecard, Story Focus, Auditors and Accountants in the mix. And with me, as usual, Michael Marillier is tracking our scorecard for us. Did you like that?
Absolutely. I even bought a shower cap. There we go.
We had to get a whole bucket and a whole system.
I was worried I was going to get wet, so I brought you a shower cap, Tullis.
Drive the point home.
Yeah, well, feel free to put it on if things get a little bit leaky on our set.
Michael, they used to be known as the number crunchers, and as I said, we call them the bean counters as well. But it seems these days they can easily be described as crooks.
Yeah, absolutely. And our scorecard has looked at all sorts of elements when it comes to auditors and accountants. This one is really interesting to us because it's not just about a single company or a single controversy. It's about the sector as a whole. And we focused on the sector as a whole because auditing is absolutely crucial to a country's economy. It's only if you can trust the auditors that you can really trust a company and you actually are prepared to invest your money in it. That's how investing works. People look to the auditors to offer some sort of guarantee, some sort of trust. So let's focus very quickly on some of the scandals to us. Of course, you mentioned the big four, Deloitte, PwC, EY, and of course KPMG. All of them have been involved in some scandal or other over the last few years. Ernst & Young, as it used to be known, it's now known as EY. Not really controversial in South Africa, but certainly beyond our borders, it's gotten itself into a little bit of trouble. We've given a score of 3 out of 10 to us. Remember, we have a weighting of 25% when it comes to charges. So the score here is 0.75. And I'm just going to list some of the controversies, and then I'll tell you where any sort of charge has been laid. Deloitte, we had the Eskom contract saga in 2016-2017. Steinhoff, Tongaat Hewlett. Of course, Deloitte was the auditor for both of those companies. PwC was the auditor for South African Airways for roughly 5 years before the Auditor General stepped in and said, these numbers just don't make sense.
And could not even depend on the work that they had done in the previous 5 years.
Absolutely. EY has been implicated in the Wirecard scandal in Germany, which has been described as Germany's Enron. EY was the auditor of Wirecard, and of course EY has firms here in South Africa. It's not to say that the local firm is necessarily involved in Wirecard, but it certainly doesn't do much for EY's reputation. And then to list KPMG, there's the SARS rogue unit, there's the Ferret dairy farm, remember the Guptas and that company known as Linkway Trading, and of course that heist, VBS Mutual Bank. In terms of charges to us, we've really only seen action with respect to that when it comes to KPMG's involvement with VBS and to some extent the Ferret dairy farm. So we can't give a particularly good score when it comes to charges. 0.75, our weighted score.
All right, let's talk about, is it civil?
Day in court. Let's bring up our next graphic.
Getting ahead of myself.
And of course, that man who you just saw was intricately involved with the VBS saga. That's Sipho Malaba. He was an auditor at KPMG. He is the man who is now facing charges along with several others. They appeared in court, I think, just last month to us. We've also seen some action from the regulator. That man, Jacques Wessels, was known as a close associate of the Guptas. He was accused of facilitating the transfer of that money from the Ferret Dairy Farm project to the Guptas. Remember that extravagant wedding at Sun City? He was invited to the wedding, and he allegedly played a crucial role in getting that money into the wrong hands. So the regulator, which is known as IRBA, has made a move and has taken him off its register, so he can no longer operate as an auditor. So there has been some action in that respect. Also, Tulis, when it comes to SAA, we have seen certain auditors involved with SAA at the state capture inquiry, but certainly nothing really beyond that when it comes to court. Remember, we give day in court a weighting of 40%, Tulis, and so our weighted score for this one is 1.4. Not particularly good when it comes to court or legal proceedings.
All right, civil remedies?
Civil legal redress. This is crucial because we're talking about money. And there's been a lot of discussion about this. As we bring up our next graphic, there's been a lot of discussion about this to us. Remember, yesterday we heard about the so-called reparations that KPMG wants to pay to SARS employees for the involvement in the rogue units.
That report that they've now disowned, pretty much.
Absolutely. So there's been some suggestion that perhaps we could see reparations being paid. Deloitte also made an attempt to pay back some money to Eskom. It paid 150 million rand from a contract which was worth 207 million rand. It's not admitting really to any wrongdoing, but it's saying perhaps we shouldn't have taken that money. We have also seen some resignations at both Deloitte and KPMG. So I suppose that's cold comfort to the taxpayer who lost money, but some people have resigned because of these particular scandals. But just a quick note, when it comes to KPMG, the economist Iraj Abedian said that he reckons they should pay 750 billion rand because of the reputational damage to South Africa and the impact these scandals could have had when it comes to credit
He's going to
ratings.
be part of my panel discussion.
Oh, yeah, and he doesn't mince his words.
Absolutely.
So civil legal redress, again, we give this a weighting of 25%. That translates to a weighted score of just over 1.1. So 1.13 for civil legal redress. Now, this one gets really interesting because I know you're going to speak to the regulator a little bit later as well. Let's go to political remedy, and we'll talk about some of the things that have been going on. Kimi Makwetu is the Auditor General. He made an important move to us. When the KPMG scandal broke, he said, I'm going to have to cancel the contracts that my office has with KPMG because the integrity of my office is absolutely crucial. So he hit them where it hurt. He said, until you can prove that you're doing things the right way, I can't do business with you. Very important. We're also seeing the introduction of the auditing profession amendment bill to us. So this is supposed to give the regulator a lot more teeth. It's supposed to allow them to perform search and seizures. It's supposed to allow them to subpoena evidence and get a lot tougher on auditors who are accused of any sort of wrongdoing. That's important. But just a final note to us, URBA, which is the regulator, needs money. It appeared before the National Council of Provinces earlier this year, and it said that the cost of its disciplinary hearings, its investigations, had climbed by 172%.
Wow.
It was also expecting budget deficits of more than 30 million rand for each of the next 3 years. So it's all very well to us that we have these laws in place, but you've got to put your money where your mouth is.
You've got to finance those particular mechanisms of accountability.
Absolutely. So our score to us, we've given political remedy 5 out of 10. It has a weighting of 10%. That translates to 0.5. So let's not waste any time. Let's head straight to our score as we tally things up. And just a reminder of each of the criteria, just to give you a sense of how we work things out. 0.75 for charges, 1.4 for day in court, 1.13 for civil legal redress, and political remedy 0.5. I'm afraid when it comes to our score,
dismal score.
The auditors have really lost out because of day in court. That's one of the big problems. Final score of 3.78 for the auditing scandals in South Africa. And we did the maths for you, Tulis, because I know you've been busy with your hot tub. And we got the average for the last 6 weeks. The average is just over 4. In fact, 4.04. So that's the number.
That's not good. That's not good at all. All right, Michael, you'll be coming back to report on what the question is and the participation from our viewers. What is this week's question?
Let's bring up our poll question to listen. I think a lot of people in South Africa will have something to say about this. This is the question that we're asking. SA's major auditing firms have been linked to massive scandals, some of them, Tulis, involving state capture. How should the guilty parties be punished? I've given you 3 options. Jail time for the individuals, ban the guilty individuals from actually practicing as auditors, or scrap the firm's contract. So don't just punish the individuals,
Yeah.
punish the companies themselves. We would love to hear from you. Cast your vote on enca.com, and I'll have the result in about half an hour.
Absolutely. It's an interesting one because it splits the implications between individuals and the firms that they are attached to.
Exactly.
Michael, I'll see you a bit later when
right.
I come back to report on what's come out from the scorecard poll on enca.com. All right, you're watching the ENCA scorecard, corruption scorecard. In the next few minutes, my panel discussion to unpack these issues around the accounting and auditing professions and their contribution to a culture of corruption in this country.